It's happening to you right now, somewhere in your brain. A word you know, a word you've used 100 times, is sitting just out of reach. You can feel it. You can almost taste the shape of it. You know how many syllables it has. You might know the first letter, but the word itself will not come. This is one of the strangest things your mind does, and for a long time, it was considered too slippery to even study. How do you measure the feeling of almost knowing something? It has a name, the tip of the tongue phenomenon. And what it reveals about your memory is genuinely unsettling because it proves that knowing a word and being able to say it are two completely separate systems, and either one can fail without the other. Let's start with how anyone managed to study something this vague. In 1966, two Harvard psychologists, Roger Brown and David McNeill, did something clever. They decided to trigger the feeling on purpose, in a lab. They gathered people and read them definitions of rare words, words like sextant or sampan or nepotism, definitions without the word attached. And then they watched what happened when someone clearly knew the word but couldn't retrieve it. What they found rewrote how we understand memory, because the people stuck in that state were not blank. They were full of information about a word they couldn't say. They could often tell you the first letter. They could tell you how many syllables it had. They could tell you what it sounded like, name other words with a similar rhythm or shape, sometimes the exact ending. Everything except the word itself. Think about how bizarre that is. If memory were a simple filing cabinet, the word would either be in the folder or not. You'd have it or you wouldn't. But that's not what's happening. You clearly have the word. You have its length, its sound, its first letter, its meaning. You have everything about it. You just can't load the one thing you actually want. The philosopher William James described this back in 1890, long before anyone could test it. He called it a gap that is intensely active, a gap with a shape, an emptiness that somehow knows exactly what is supposed to fill it. So, what is actually going wrong in there? Here's the part that changes how you think about your own memory. When you store a word, you don't store it as one thing. You store its meaning in one place, and its sound, the actual sequence of noises your mouth makes, in another. These two are connected by a link. Most of the time, that link fires instantly. You think of the meaning, the sound arrives, you speak. It's so fast you never notice it's two steps. The tip of the tongue state is what it feels like when that link fails to fully fire. The meaning is lit up completely. The sound is in there somewhere, but the bridge between them is too weak in that moment to carry the signal across. Researchers call this a transmission deficit, and the words most vulnerable to it are the ones whose bridges get used the least. Rare words, words you haven't said in a while. And above all, names. Names are the worst offenders, and there's a beautiful reason why. It's called the Baker-Baker paradox. In an experiment, people were shown a face and told either that the man's name was Baker or that his job was a baker. Same word, same sound. Days later, they were far more likely to remember that he was a baker than that his name was Baker. Why? Because the job baker connects to 100 other things. Bread, ovens, flour, a hat, the smell of a bakery. It's woven into a web of meaning, but baker as a name connects to nothing. It's an arbitrary label hanging by a single thread. So, when you reach for it, there's only one fragile path, and if that path is weak, the name vanishes even as the person's entire face and life sit right in front of you. This is why you can stand in front of someone you've met 10 times and feel their name dissolve the instant you need it. You're not losing your mind. You're hitting the one word in your vocabulary that was never properly tied down. It gets more interesting. The phenomenon happens more as you get older, but not because your memory is failing the way people fear. The meanings are all still there. It's specifically those sound links that weaken with age, the bridges, not the storage. Bilingual people get tip-of-the-tongue states more often too, because every concept has two competing words attached, and the competition weakens each individual link. Sometimes a wrong word forces its way in and sits there blocking the right one. Researchers call these interlopers, an ugly, insistent word that you know is wrong but can't stop thinking, which jams the retrieval even harder. And here's the strangest rescue. The word very often arrives the moment you stop chasing it. You give up, you think about something else, and 10 minutes later, it just appears, fully formed, unannounced, because the search never actually stopped. It just moved somewhere you couldn't watch it. This isn't a quirk of English, by the way. The tip-of-the-tongue state shows up in nearly every language ever studied. And in deaf signers, the same thing happens with signs. They call it tip of the fingers, the exact shape of the sign, just out of reach, which means this isn't about words at all. It's about something deeper in how the brain retrieves anything. Because step back and look at what's really going on. Your brain is telling you with total confidence that it contains a specific piece of information that it cannot currently give you. It is reporting the existence of a memory while being unable to open it. That feeling, the certainty that you know something you can't actually produce, is your mind monitoring itself, reading its own contents from the outside, aware of a door it knows is there but can't push open. Most of the time, your memory feels like you, seamless, instant, yours. The tip of the tongue is the rare moment the seam shows. When you feel directly that your memory is not a vault but a web of fragile connections, and you're standing there feeling one of them flicker, trying to decide whether it will hold.